What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And today I'm going to talk about a topic that needs to be talked about. And I'm going to tell y'all one thing I absolutely despise. I absolutely can't stand are bans. And the thing I hate about bans is that they always like chit-chatting and chatty-patty about like certain little things like guys' careers and stuff like that. And like they talk about these dudes like they know these guys or like their achievements weren't because of this person. And the bands that I'm talking about are Richard Sherman, Marshawn Lynch, Doug Baldwin, and Tony Gonzalez. Straight bans. And why am I calling them bans? Because every time they open their mouth, Russell Wilson is coming out of it. No pause. Because that's what it's like each and every time. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like every time they get an opportunity to talk, the first person they bring up is Russell Wilson. How he not deserving of something. He not deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. Have you lost your mind? Have you really lost your mind? Russell Wilson not deserving of the Hall of Fame because of what? His last couple seasons ain't been that good. So what? This man was one of the best quarterbacks during his tenure. Not only that, him and Kirk Cousins are actually still the only two quarterbacks still in the NFL, and prior to him being benched, was actually the only quarterback from that 2012 draft that was still a starting quarterback in the NFL. So for y'all to sit up here and like diminish this man like he wasn't special or like he didn't do something that was achievable or that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because he had a bad couple years. Get out of here. Get out of here. And I mean, every time I turn around, the same bands are the same ones that's sitting up there and got something to say about them. They don't come out their mouth with that craziness about Aaron Rodgers. They can't wait to glaze him. They don't come out their mouth about anybody else that they sit up there and glaze on a consistent basis. Glizzy glazing. Richard Sherman get an opportunity. Hey, you need your glizzy glaze? I got you. Hey, you need your glizzy glaze? I got you. Russell Wilson, nah. I don't want to glaze his glizzy. That's all Richard Sherman do is talk, run his mouth all the time. Like he don't have a Super Bowl ring because of Russell Wilson. And let's talk about Richard Sherman for a hot minute. Because he talks all that trash, talking about some Legion of Boom, they can't get their recognition. Okay, let's talk about the second Super Bowl. Let's talk about the Legion of Boom and the second Super Bowl. If I can remember that Super Bowl, the Seattle Seahawks in the fourth quarter were up 24-14 in that game. And guess what happened? Tom Brady marched down. In fact, Tom Brady was the one who threw all the touchdowns in that game. Was it the Legion of Boom that gave a touchdown away to Brandon LaFell? Yeah, I think it was. Because Russell Wilson don't play defense. Was it the Legion of Boom that gave up the touchdown to Rob Gronkowski? Yeah, that was them. How about the Julian Edelman touchdown, right? That couldn't have been Legion of Boom, right? The first one. Yeah, it was. Then let's talk about the fact that Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman was catching passes all across the middle. Guess who constantly showed up when it came to tackling or anything like that or after a big game? Yeah, it was Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. And let's also talk about how we had an elite cornerback in that game who shut down Doug Baldwin in that game. Yeah, how many of y'all remember that? Yeah, that cornerback was Darrelle Revis. And you know what Darrelle Revis did that Richard Sherman didn't do? He followed the number one guy all over the field. He didn't just stay a left cornerback. And Richard Sherman is sitting here running his mouth like he was extra special, like he played more than one side of the field. He only played one side of the field. And he always wants to be considered an elite corner when he only played one side of the field. He did not sit up there and follow the top wide receiver all over the field. And he wants to be considered special. And he wants to talk trash about Russell Wilson. How about this? The Legion of Boom was together a year before Russell Wilson got there. What Super Bowl did y'all win before then? Russell Wilson was a rookie when he got y'all to the playoffs. Again, who won anything prior to Russell Wilson getting there? Understand, Russell Wilson won Seattle its first Super Bowl. So Richard Sherman is running his mouth talking about the Legion of Boom. Let's talk about the second Super Bowl again. Do you know that the Legion of Boom has another member from that secondary that has a second ring? Guess what team he wasn't on when he got that second ring? He wasn't on the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, it was Brandon Browner, who happened to be in the second Super Bowl playing for the New England Patriots. So Richard Sherman needs to shut his mouth and keep himself quiet when he's talking about Russell Wilson. Keep Russell Wilson's name out your mouth. Because at the end of the day, he is deserving of being a Hall of Famer. And you need to understand that if it wasn't for him doing the things that he did, y'all would have had to rely on Matt Flynn being your quarterback. How you think that would have worked out? Huh? Do you think you would have a Super Bowl ring right now? Probably not. Now on to Marshawn Lattimore. Another one who needs to shut his mouth. Again, he's another one. Comes out his mouth incorrect. I remember Marshawn Lattimore when he had the first 2 years in Buffalo and he was supposed to be something special. And then he had 4 straight years of lackluster performance and people were sitting there talking about he's a bust. Oh, you don't want people to remember that part, Marshawn Lynch? You don't want people to remember when you sat up there and you were sitting up there and you you had the audacity to actually be somebody that people were considering a bust running back, which is why Buffalo was okay with getting rid of you? Didn't have 1,000-yard seasons until year 6. Had 1,000 yards his first year, 1,000 yards his second year, fell off the cliff for 4 straight years, get to Seattle, year 1, no Russell Wilson, has 1,000 yards rushing. Russell Wilson gets drafted and has his best yardage in all of his career with Russell Wilson at the helm, a rookie quarterback, and also the most carries he's had in his career. And you really sitting here talking trash about a guy that got you that far? How about those plays that Russell Wilson got to you, the balls that Russell Wilson got to you because you couldn't get your butt through up to the line and through the line when New England changed their defensive strategy? Yeah, you was getting locked down. You wasn't running the ball that much. But yeah, we all do remember Russell Wilson getting you that ball for that long play. Again, the Seattle Seahawks was up 24-14 in the fourth quarter. The Legion of Boom failed them. That Super Bowl was lost due to the Legion of Boom. And Marshawn Lattimore, guess what? You was being stuffed. Yeah, you did have that one run. Guess what? If you was beast mode, you would have gotten all the way in the end zone. There shouldn't have, if you was that top notch, that special and all that, you would have gotten into the end zone the first time. They wouldn't have had to call a second play. Because remember, they were letting time run off the clock. And they were trying to hurry up and get a score. They were down there and they didn't want to sit up there and get stuffed at the one. Because guess what? Every time they stuffed it, when they stuffed the runs, guess what was happening? You was losing yardage. Again, remember, you was a failed running back. You was being considered a bust. Your best yardage year was with Russell Wilson at the helm. You don't get those yards if Russell Wilson isn't there. The most carries you ever had, Russell Wilson's rookie year. Right. Yeah. Now on to Doug Baldwin, who should be the one that should stay quiet, period. No matter, if anybody asks him about Russell Wilson, he shouldn't say nothing other than, thank God he was my quarterback. Doug Baldwin was undrafted. A guy nobody cared anything about. A guy that nobody even thought about. Out of Stanford. Wasn't that special. Nobody thought he was that special. Somehow, some way, he has a fantastic career. But guess who's his quarterback? That's right. It's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson makes Doug Baldwin a legitimate wide receiver when nobody else cared about him. No one else cared about him, and Russell Wilson made him a star in Seattle. Russell Wilson sat up there and Doug Baldwin may get his number retired or his name put in the Ring of Fame in Seattle due to Russell Wilson. That was all Russell Wilson. Remember the 2 Pro Bowls you went to? Guess what? Who was the quarterback then? Yeah, it was Russell Wilson. Remember the 14 touchdowns in a season that you had? Yeah, Russell Wilson was the one throwing you the ball. So to sit up here and talk about Russell Wilson like you can't appreciate this man, like this man ain't do nothing but sit up there and make you relevant when everybody else felt you weren't relevant enough to even draft you, you should be happy. And you should be praising Russell Wilson every moment you get because you was out of line talking about him. So you need to shut up and you need to stop yapping your mouth unless it's praise for Russell Wilson, because if it wasn't for him, you would be nobody. Just like nobody cared about you when the draft time came around, they wouldn't have cared about you if Russell Wilson wasn't the one who made you the focal point of the offense. You can talk about how hard you work, but guess what? Russell Wilson was your quarterback, was he not? Russell Wilson got you that ball, did he not? So next time, you another one that need to shut your mouth and know your role. Because understand this, if it wasn't for Russell Wilson, you would have been a failed 4th quarterback, not the number 1 that Russell Wilson made you into. last but not least, is a band that, one, never even played with Russell Wilson and got the nerve to open up his mouth like he played with Russell Wilson. And that's Tony Gonzalez. Now, yeah, I know a lot of, he gonna sit up there and be like, well, he can't talk about my stats. He can't talk about my stats. I still lead the league when it comes to yardage and stuff like that. I'm still one of the top tight ends. You broke records that, in all honesty, was easy to break. Then on top of that, you was in Kansas City where, when you were gone, they found another tight end in Travis Kelce, who basically found a way to pretty much rack up the numbers, and probably would have ended up breaking your record if he didn't start dating Taylor Swift and started kind of losing his swag and becoming kind of weak and all that type of stuff, right? Yeah, that's what happened. But Tony Gonzalez, when you think about you, what Super Bowl you ever won? What Super Bowl you ever win? What Super Bowl were you a part of? And if I can remember you from the playoffs and a lot of other times, there was a lot of times that you went missing when it came to big games. When it came to games that mattered. When they needed you the most in games. There were a lot of times that you actually disappeared in the game. You wasn't that special as a run blocker because you was only going out there to go catch passes because that's what you wanted to focus on the most. But at the same time, there were a lot of times that you disappeared in big games when your team could have easily gotten to the Super Bowl and into the championship games and stuff like that. And they didn't because you didn't come through. So, and guess what? You're one of those ones that they talk about, yeah, he's a regular season hero. But when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the big games, yeah, there were times that Tony Gonzalez failed. He did. And that's what it is. I mean, Tony Gonzalez, I mean, yeah, you did have all the stats and you do have all the high stats when it comes to all the stuff, when it comes to tight ends. But in reality, if you really want me to be honest, you're nothing more than a Dan Marino of tight ends. A guy who has all the stats. And that's the only reason he gets into the Hall of Fame, because he never won anything for real. He doesn't have a Super Bowl. He doesn't have a Lombardi trophy to lift. Yeah, Tony Gonzalez doesn't have that. And he won't have it. So, again, for all you bands who sit up there and talk about Russell Wilson, especially the four that I just mentioned, who don't understand that, well, 3 of the 4 who don't understand that without Russell Wilson, they wouldn't have the achievements that they have. I'm feeling like Chief Keef when it comes to those bands. A band, that's the thing I don't like. A band, that's the thing I don't like. A band, that's the thing I don't like. I don't like. I don't like. A band, that's the thing I don't like. So you bands who talk about Russell Wilson, keep his name out your mouth. And if the only thing that's special about what you gotta say is Russell Wilson, anything bad about Russell Wilson, then that tells you that all your life you'll only focus on Russell Wilson. That man is a Hall of Famer. He was one of the elite guys during his tenure. Yes, has he gotten older? Definitely. But how many quarterbacks have gotten older and sat up there and found out that Father Time doesn't play a role? At the end of the day, the man is a Super Bowl champion. The man has won majorly in a city that never thought that they would win a Super Bowl. And he's done everything special for a lot of y'all. Be like Bobby Wagner. Shut your mouth. Be like Bobby Wagner. Be a real man and sit up there and act like you're just happy that members of that Seattle Seahawks team is actually getting into the Hall of Fame. And if you want to say something to me. Trust and believe. I trust and believe. I ain't never scared. Alright? Y'all bands, keep his name out y'all mouth. Everybody else, y'all tell me what y'all think. How do y'all feel about this? Do y'all feel that Richard Sherman, Doug Baldwin, and Marshawn Lynch need to keep their band mouths, from talking about Russell Wilson? Y'all let me know down in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe. Other than that, this has been your man, John Fortune, and it's been a Frustrated Fan Sports Show.